What's up? What's going on? Hide and read. These are becoming my favorite videos. It's the monthly wrap up for May 2026. I got right here everything that I read and one movie, minus one book, and we're going to talk about that too. First, just want to mention lots of new subscribers. If you're not terribly shy, feel free to drop comments. I respond to everything. If you're shy and you still want to say something negative or positive, feel free to send me an email. This month I set up a Instagram account for the channel. You can do this, the Vanna White. You can go over to the Instagram account and I'm doing written reviews for the books that I read. With no further ado, we'll get right into the books, but I think we'll start with that movie. The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Not going to review this, but I can talk about it a little bit. Had a star cast, lots of famous actors, lots of great still shots and just panoramic views, decent dialogue. I thought the costumes were excellent. I'm not an expert in the period clothing, but everything looked pretty on point. Nothing was like over the top or too dramatic. And that's about all I have nice to say about this film. It was way too long. It definitely could have used some editing. Watching the credits, it just seems like there was too many people involved with making the film, so it was like a lot of different people's like vanity projects put together, and it just did not make for a good like single feature length film. It was just a lot of things could have been cut. It really just seemed like Brad Pitt, the main character, he's playing Jesse James. It just seemed like a way for him to practice for like future roles, like in Inglourious Bastards. Yeah, everything was kind of just a disappointment in this one. It starts off with a train robbery. Things are looking pretty good. Lots of cool shots leading up to this, and then you get to the train robbery, and it's mostly just a disappointment. Like nothing. I don't know how you have a Western with a boring train robbery. That just seems like almost impossible, but it happens, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the movie. There are some cool points in the film that I thought were clever, but just overall, I don't even think I'd recommend watching it, to be honest. It was just disappointing. I would love for somebody to disagree and let me know how I'm wrong, but otherwise, I don't think I'll be watching this one again. My Fake Amish Betrothal. I don't have the book on me. I forget the author's name, but this is my first adventure into these Amish romance books that you've probably seen and avoided. I secretly have always wanted to read one. This was not a good book. This is not a good book. So much so that I probably am going to avoid anything by the same author again. Just the repetitive use of the same phrases, and then also the characters are just always eating something. It's like a small plot action takes place, and then, oh, now we got to go to like basically the same restaurant every time and eat the most boring food ever. Which I get, maybe Amish people aren't eating exciting food, but you could have at least made it culturally interesting. Like I thought that was one of the big problems with the book, is that as outsiders to this pretty much closed culture that we can't participate in, just so little was done to explain like where the characters are coming from. Not to say that it never happened, but it's just like a little bit of history, maybe a little bit of showing the different the different practices and the different sects, I guess you would call them, of the Amish community. Just really anything would have helped this story quite a bit. It was so underwhelming, but I was determined to finish it. I finished it. More than anything, it was just a lesson of what not to do to the reader. It just wasn't very kind to the reader. I think this would have been a good book for maybe like a 12-year-old girl, or maybe a very old woman. Maybe that's a target audience. Obviously, I'm not the target audience, so I don't want to be too critical, and so we'll just leave it at that. Next up, oh, I donated that one to the little public library in town. Quite a change of pace here. Horrors of Oakendale Abbey by Mrs. Carver. This was really cool. It's a classic Gothic fiction written in, I want to say, like the late 1700s. I'll just take a look real quick. 1797. And it was out of print for like almost 200 years. So like during that big Gothic revival, with all the ladies in front of like a stormy old building. This was probably unread. The introduction was interesting. It detailed a lot of just like the elements of Gothic fiction, from the inception to current day. And Horrors of Oakendale Abbey was a lot of fun to read. The main character, Laura, she's kind of like this moral standard, and she's of unknown parentage, but she has a very kind of aristocratic but down-to-earth demeanor about her, and she carries herself that way. And so it just makes her very likable. And anyway, she encounters this lord, the Lord of Oakendale, while he's vacationing. He's so stricken with her that he kind of hides his title and everything, and doesn't let her know that he's married or anything like that, because he wants to make her his mistress. She doesn't find this out. She's already involved with him. Not really romantically, but just like she can't escape the situation. One, because she has no parents. She's like, she's an orphan. And so she rejects his advances. She finds the whole thing scandalous, and it doesn't really meet up to her moral standings. And so the Lord Oakendale, he comes up with this plan where he's going to send her to this abandoned abbey, and she's going to be so scared of all the ghosts and skeletons and rumors and everything about the abbey, and it's just like in complete like disgusting disrepair, that she's going to basically beg to live with him and be one of his concubines. This completely backfires because she's like pretty determined, like she knows what's up, and so instead of being scared of the whole situation, she meets it head on, and she's exploring the abbey, and eventually she leaves the abbey and goes into the countryside, and then you kind of get the second half of the story, which admittedly wasn't as strong as the first, where she finds out like her true ancestry, and another plot that's hinted to in the beginning kind of resolves itself, and that's her romantic interest. So I like this a lot. If you're a fan of Gothic horror, definitely check this one out. Under the pen name Mrs. Carver, The Horror of Oakendale Abbey. I enjoyed it quite a bit. No, it's not Alaska by James Michener, which I was reading this month. I predicted that I would read 2 chapters. Instead, I read 3. So 3 times as much as the previous months, because we gotta stop talking about this book every time and not finishing it. But I am enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. I'm at the point where we're in the gold rush of Alaska, and kind of getting towards the end of the gold rush. The miners and explorers have pretty much found all the gold, but people are still rushing into these towns and finding out there's really no way for them to access the gold. Like all the claims have already been bought. a lot of the gold has been taken out of the streams, and most recently, one of these kind of disappointed adventurers has discovered that the beaches of Nome are just filled with gold, so they don't even have to pan for it. They're just dig. The sand is just filled with lots of gold, and so this is like the it might be the final gold rush in Alaska, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Mention this one too. Don't Look Now, Daphne du Maurier. It was horror and mayhem this month. Maybe I'll make a separate video just kind of detailing the horror books that I read. Nothing was like blood and guts serial killer horror. It was more just kind of horror literature. But this one had a gothic in it as well. Monte Verita, which is all about a mountain that has this castle on the top of it with this cult that the people can't really understand what's going on there. And in her usual fashion, she's very good at making twists at the end of her stories. Daphne du Maurier is probably most well known for she has a gothic fiction book, Rebecca, and also she wrote the short story that is the inspiration for the Hitchcock film Birds. Pretty cool. The movie's probably better, let's just be honest, but the short story was good. But The Birds is not the best short story in this collection. Blue Lenses was awesome. And also there's a very short story in here. La Sainte Vierge. And it was horrible. Like, it was horrible in the best way possible.
It's one of the things, as I say, it's constantly said about it that you are a romantic novelist, but this doesn't really cover the area of work. I mean, there's your short stories, for instance,
you can't call them romantic.
No, which are horrific.
Well, they are rather, yes. That's another nasty side to me, isn't it?
Tell me about...
It's so short I can't really give away... I won't give away any of it. Just go find a copy of the story and read it. It was really just absolutely terrible in the best way possible. Like, I was kind of even upset at the author when I was done reading it. But yeah, I read the final 3 short stories in this, and they were all excellent. More short stories. At the end of the month, I picked up Death in Midsummer, which is a short story in this collection by Yukio Mishima, and I'm glad I did. A lot of times I'll find an author that I enjoy and wish that I had read them sooner. I don't think I would have really appreciated Mishima's writing. Like, I would have understood that it's good, excellent really, but not really been able to appreciate kind of like the interpersonal unspoken dramas that he's very skilled at depicting. I read the first 3 in here. We'll talk about it more probably next month when I finish. And I want to go back to something that I've done previously in the channel, and that's the book of the month. And I'm pretty confident this is book of the month. So far, this is my book of the year, I gotta be honest. Willa Cather, Death Comes for the Archbishop. Knocked it out of the park. Especially the last quarter of the book was just some of the best writing I've ever read. Definitely excellent. I can't really praise it enough. It's clearly a Western, but it doesn't really have the Western elements that are typical for a Western. There are appearances of Western characters like Kit Carson, but for the most part, the story is about 2 French missionaries from the Catholic Church, and they are establishing dioceses in the newly formed New Mexico, which was previously New Spain. And so they're inheriting kind of like the skeleton of the Catholic Church in New Mexico from the Spanish. So the Spanish have already gone through and converted a lot of the locals and also terrorized them, but also set up these big, beautiful cathedrals and laid a lot of the groundwork for these French missionaries to come in who have a much different demeanor than the Spanish. There's just like so much going on in this book. The characters, especially the two main characters, was it Father Vaillant and the Archbishop himself, Father Latour, and they're just like, they just go together like peanut butter and jelly. They're awesome. They're like kind of different aspects that complement each other. Yeah, again, can't say enough good things, especially the depictions of the scenery. There's yeah, it just goes from like theology to desert landscapes to like horrible rumors of demonic cults sacrificing babies and just all kinds of stuff. And she doesn't really have to go too deep into anything. And by too deep, I don't mean like she is getting deep into the subjects, but they're not, it's not like pages and pages. Like she can say a lot with under a paragraph. And yeah, big fan already. This is my first book by Will Catherine. I can't wait to get to more. That's gonna be book of the month. I already just talked a bunch about it, but we'll do more. We'll do more. A little bit more theology. My recollections of Papa Tikhon. We'll just call him Father Tikhon from here. He was a Russian priest who became a monastic on Mount Athos. If you don't know what Mount Athos is, it's an island in Greece that's just male monastics. No women are allowed on this island. And the whole island is, the entire culture of it is set up to serve these monastics who are praying for the world, basically. And doesn't he look like a wizard? I mean, he more or less is. I mean, if you're going to, like, becoming a monastic on Mount Athos is a big deal. If you, not only was he a monastic on Mount Athos, he was a hermit. So he wasn't inside one of these monasteries where, you're getting 3 square meals most days and you have a roof over your head. He was, just out in the woods, in different sea caves, and yeah, doing his thing. It was fun to read. It was a lot of fun to read. This is like a condensed collection from a longer work. So maybe I'll hunt that down and read more about this Father Tikhon. It was pretty cool. Roger Zelazny and Robert Sheckley, Bring Me the Head of Prince Charming, was a lot of fun. Definitely not like, an example of like high literature or anything. But the writing was good enough, and like I said, it was more fun than anything. It's kind of like this wacky story, but the plot summary is pretty intense. Every 1,000 years, the angelic and demonic forces have this competition in order to decide who is going to kind of control and manipulate the next 1,000 years till the next competition, who's going to be manipulating mankind. And so this follows the story of a demon who sets up for his entry into this competition. He's going to make like a bastardized version of the fairy tale of Prince Charming, and it uses lots of different elements that you'll be familiar with, even if you haven't read a lot of mythology or fables. Like you're going to catch a lot of like little Easter eggs and stuff if you read this. It was fun. There's a second book which isn't reviewed very well. I may or may not read it, but I'll probably read something else by Zelazny first. So got my enjoyable Zelazny book in. I was pretty happy about that. This was a great reading month for me. Then I read Gentleman Commander. It's a very shallow biography of Robert E. Lee, written for children. I was born in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. I spent like my first 6 or 7 years there. And after that, I moved to Pennsylvania and then to New Jersey. So I've just always been around different battlefields, basically. A lot of times the vacations would revolve around these battlefields, or at the very least we would stop and walk around in them and stuff and read the plaques. And I don't know. Yeah, I've always been north of the Mason-Dixon line, but I've always had a sense of admiration for Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson. It's a very neutered account of the whole thing. Obviously, it's for children. I'm going to be reading something a little bit more in depth in the future, but it was just interesting to read about his horse, Traveler, his good friend and peer, Stonewall Jackson, and also just learning about like the history of Robert E. Lee, how he married into George Washington's family, and yeah, he's just like a Southern gentleman. He wasn't exactly ready to join either side. He was I think the president at West Point, or he held a very high position at West Point, and later Virginia Military Institute. I've been to both of them. I didn't go to school there, obviously, but I visited both of them before, and yeah, just very interesting how he wasn't really set on joining. Both sides wanted him, but his conviction was that he's a Virginian, and he wasn't going to let his people who are from Virginia, because there used to be like actual statehoods in the United States of America. The states used to be actually independent of each other, and he wasn't going to let his people down, who were Virginia, basically. So, yeah, fun. Definitely got me primed and inspired to read more about the Civil War, which I should do. And last but certainly not least, this was awesome. Ambush at Skyline Ranch. This one, Thomas McNulty. Definitely go check out his channel. The channel will be linked in the description below. You should already be subscribed to his channel. What are you doing? Anyway, Thomas has an awesome backlog of booktube videos. He's been doing it almost as long as anybody on YouTube. He's not as prolific this year as he has been in previous years, especially the last 2 years. He was making a lot of content, but he has other endeavors. But yeah, this was awesome. Follows a Pinkerton agent who's sent to this gambling town. The whole town is basically set up on having these big city gamblers come in and spending all their money, and drinking and sleeping with prostitutes, and then they're away from their wives and then going back home, or bringing girlfriends with them or whatever, and living this kind of secret life, kind of like how Las Vegas used to be. Is Las Vegas still a thing? But yeah, it was awesome. Wasn't nearly as gory, and the action wasn't nearly as traumatic as most of his westerns, but it definitely wasn't shy either. It felt like it was a good something in between, if it's possible, the adult westerns like Gunsmith that I like to read, and the more classy Louis L'Amour's, and also some really outstanding descriptions of landscape and desert sunsets, as well as very light amount of poetry in the form of cowboy songs set to a acoustic guitar. A lot of fun, and the shootout at the end is almost like military tactical kind of deal. It was awesome. I enjoyed this a lot. I'll probably be rereading this one, Ambush at Skyline Ranch. So that's what I got for you guys this month. I think I've already overstayed my time a little bit. And then until next time, find somewhere to hide, find something to read. Peace.